Hello again and welcome back to episode 4 of the Mario Kart series videos. Last time we looked at Mario Kart Super Circuit for the Game Boy Advance, where I found it to have fond appreciation due to the ranking system and how well it played than I remembered. Now it's finally time to talk about what I consider the peak of classic Mario Kart. Welcome to Mario Kart Double Dash for the Nintendo GameCube. We have reached the 21st century and gaming has now adapted to become more mature than before. Not that there weren't any games for this audience before, mind you. With the release of the Xbox with Halo in 2001 and the PS2 coming out earlier, it has now been solidified that we can expect more realistic graphics and dual analog sticks, which can be better perfected camera controls. So where was Nintendo in this transition? Well, they were doing their own thing with the Nintendo GameCube starting in 2001, as it was their most powerful console back then, as it can now render real-time shadow, dynamic lighting, particles, as it was very difficult to pull off on the N64, and can now support 480p on a wide selection of games, making it quite stunning to look at, and using optical discs to have a bigger storage capacity to make bigger games than ever before. And how about that controller? Sure, it looks weird, but I think it's quite innovative as there's rumble inside, the left stick isn't as stiff and it's quite comfortable to use, and the introduction of analog triggers as you pull as much pressure as you want on it, and depending on the game it will respond by showing how much you pulled. Let's not forget about the WavePro controller, as it's the first wireless controller Nintendo made, as it was even during the 6th generation everyone was still using wired controllers, so to have it work so well, it's quite a feat. I could continue to gush over the GameCube for much longer, but I think I'll save that for another day. But overall, this was a great console. However, not many people thought it the same way as when it came out, as many criticized for its appearance for being cute compared to the Xbox and PS2 and lacking multimedia features the Xbox and PS2 have, with reading and playing discs, is like to play movies and such, and online play. Because of that, it barely sold 20 millions, making it the worst selling console Nintendo has sold, but that wouldn't last very long, as another console took its place, and we'll be saving that for another day. In the late 2000s to early 2020s, there have been a big group of people that look back to the GameCube and point out that its huge library of quality games with new IPs, such as Pikmin starting here, to having completely different direction to tone like Wind Waker. And I feel like Mario Kart Double Dash fits in this category, as in November of 2003, the game finally released. I'm quite nostalgic for this game, as I remember that I played this game at someone's house at the time and only just been playing Mario Kart Wii, and seeing this was fascinating to me. Then around 2016 I saw some playthroughs of this game and made me want to get it, and it wasn't until summer of 2018 that my uncle gave it to me as an early birthday present, and this was the first GameCube game I have ever owned and the beginning of my collection. And now I'm ready to talk about Mario Kart Double Dash. As per usual, let's talk about what has changed from the previous games to where we are. The character roster has been expanded to 16 characters, with 9 returning and 8 brand new characters joining. In us is Daisy from Super Mario Land, Birdo from the US version of Super Mario Bros. 2, Baby Mario and Luigi from Yoshi's Island, Paratroopa's only appearance in the series, Diddy Kong, Bowser Jr. and Waluigi, all coming here for the main gimmick of this game. 2 characters in 1 card. Each character gets a pair like Mario and Luigi, Wario and Waluigi, Peach and Daisy, and Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong, which I find makes sense with these parallels these characters have with each other, especially with their special item, but I'm getting ahead of myself. As per usual, there are 3 weight classes for each character, but what's interesting is that 3 characters are not the same weight class as their partner, like Bowser Jr., Diddy Kong being lightweights to their partners, and heavyweights And Waluigi being a medium class, unlike Wario being a heavyweight. But that's not the end, as the vehicle changes at its weight class, such as if a lightweight character is paired up with a Kart, it is heavy weight, and same applies to medium weights. Speaking of which, for the first time in the series, you're not limited to just one Kart, as there's more to pick from, and as their own stats such as weight, speed, and acceleration. Thus, there are many combos to choose from, and I'll explain later. Now on to the presentation. I'm recording this off a GameCube with progressive scan that allows 480p resolution along with the M Classic to present in a 4K display. I think I'm quite bold for me to say that this is one of the best looking games on the GameCube for how colorful and well made the environments are to look at. Of course, there are some dated looking assets such as Bowser and DK's fists looking like deformed spears attached to their arms. How some of them all look polygonal up close and having some gloss over them. But I think it's because of the upscale the resolution, and with the original resolution disguising the appearance of the stuff I mentioned, but I still do like the appearance of it even in a higher resolution. So that kind of proves that even if in a 4K remaster, it would still look good in my opinion. Also, can I take a moment to appreciate the animation? Since this is the jump from 2D sprites to 3D models, and thus the promotional art material can be translated into the game very seamless, and the character animation looks great and fitting for each character. And detail that I greatly appreciate is when you hit an opponent with your item, not only they will react with a waist clip, but they would celebrate that they hit an opponent, and I just liked it a lot. As for the music, I think I'll say that for when I talk about the tracks, but overall, I think it's really good. Now it's time for the controls, and oh boy do I have a lot to say. A is to accelerate, B to brake, but now when you come to a complete stop, holding B now makes you go in reverse without holding down on the control stick. X and Y are to use an item, holding L or R lets you drift, and flicking the stick left and right while holding drift lets you charge a spark to a blue level and gets you a small speed boost. On that note, I might forgot to mention this in previous video, but in the beginning of a race, if you press A at the moment start shows up or tap through the countdown, you'll do a technique called a rocket start to get ahead of the competition, and if you fall off the track the moment the car drops from like a 2, just press A and to get a speed boost, and you'll get back in the race with top speed. Overall, I do really consider this the best controls Mario Kart has ever seen so far, and I don't have anything bad to say. Turning isn't as slippery anymore, and drifting doesn't feel too wide or too sharp compared to previous games. Now it's time for the items, as there's more to say than ever before. The items that appear in Mario Kart 64 return here except for the Boo and the Banana Bunch, but there are minor changes from before, such as red shells now having better homing accuracy, the blue shells now having wings, meaning it doesn't hover the ground anymore and hit other racers in its path, and instead just flies above racers until it reaches the racer in first place. Also, unlike its predecessors and successors, you can't drag items behind you, so you have to wait until the item is behind you to defend yourself, which I find quite strategic. You might notice that the item pool this time around is smaller, but let me tell you, that is not the case. There are 9 exclusive items called special items that can only be obtained from special characters, and I'll be going over them one by one. Mario and Luigi's Fireball. Throw it in front or back of you, and the fireball will split itself and then bounce for a bit, that way you can hit an opponent. Peach and Daisy's Heart. 2 hearts will circle around the vehicle acting as a shield, and if an item hits, it will become theirs. Yoshi and Birdo's Egg. Throw it behind or in front of you, and if thrown in front, it will behave like a red shell, and when it breaks, it will drop 3 items on the ground, which can be either banana peels, bombs, mushrooms, or stars. Baby Mario and Baby Luigi's Chain Chomp. When used, it will summon a chain chomp in front of the racer and will pull the cart at high speed for a limited time, and it will knock any racers that will get in its way. Koopa and Paratroopa's triple shells. It'll give the racer 3 red or green shells and it can be thrown back and forth. Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong's giant banana. This huge banana can take up a big part of the track if thrown or placed, and if any opponent gets hit by it, they will slip, causing 3 smaller bananas to appear. Bowser and Bowser Jr.'s Bowser Shell. This giant shell that looks like Bowser's shell can be thrown forward or backwards and will bounce around any wall that it hits, and if opponent gets hit by it, the racer on the back will fall over, thus reducing their speed. Wario and Waluigi's Bomb. This item can be thrown or placed and will explode on, and if on contact it gets hit or even a short while, and if opponent gets in the center of the explosion, they will be launched in the air and will cause the racer on the back to fall over, thus reducing their speed. Some may find this restricting as you don't have all the items, especially some of the items you can get before are now a character exclusive, but I find this to be a lot of fun to experiment. For example, if I want Mario for the fireball, but I also want to knock out opponents with relative ease, then Bowser and Bowser Jr.'s shells can deal with that problem. Or I can also do it if I want to use Waluigi for the bombs, but to make sure I can protect myself. I can use one of the princesses to provide me with their heart item to protect me, on top of depending the character's weight class and the results of Kart's weight class, making this game the most experimental game in the series. I forgot to mention this functionality from earlier, but this is important. Pressing the Z button lets you swap characters' place to drive or to handle items, and considering that you can choose any character combination, it does make sense, but I also find it strategic, as if one character has an item that you want to save later, or just swap to the next character and you can save that item for when you need it. On that note, sometimes there are double item boxes and hitting them will give you both characters an item, and also only one special item can be held out at a time, so you have to consider which character to have in the bag to use the special item. I really like the system as it gives me to strategic moments and to use some characters' weight class and items. It's fun to do so. Alright, now it's time to talk about the tracks, and oh my goodness, there is quite a lot to say. Just as I did go over like back in 64, I'll be doing the same here, so get ready. Starting off with a perfectly simple track to start with, as it's just a loop with a wall in the center and 50cc players remove and higher difficulties. An oval shaped track just like before, but with 2 paths to choose from, as one leads to a ramp with double item boxes and the other is shorter or longer depending on the tide. And there are cataclysms, and if you get hit, will flip you in air, causing to lose speed. I do like this track as it's based on Mario Sunshine, as it to look like Delfino Island at the start, with Gelato Beach as the beach portion of the track. This one is a literal oval and it's quite short, but it has 7 laps instead of 3, and the walls in the center can let items go through, meaning there's a lot of chaos happening. To me, this track represents all of Mario Kart Double Dash. A simple layout in some wavy turns, but it's fun obstacles like the pokies to dodge and tornado passing through the entirety of the tracks, and the sand pit that will drag you to the center and get eaten by the piranha plant if not being careful. A simple layout to follow with one shortcut, and the obstacles are that the vehicles that drive you in the path along with a bomb cart and that explodes when hit, and a mushroom cart when hit will dispense a mushroom in front. There is a path next to the starting line that leads you to a pipe with a double item box. You can drive up the bridge, but it's easy to fall off, but overall I really like this track. A track with some sharp turns, a chain jump in one of them, piranha plants to dodge, and bumpy road near the end. Not much else to say there. The setting is quite unique as it takes place on a cruise ship with a pool to avoid tables and item box that rock back and forth in the dining hall, and an optional path that takes you to the engine room. I really like this track for its unique custom, and it feels fitting for a Mario Kart, and the music is a highlight. Take a listen. A very simple track with not much to say, as the stand-up part at the end is with the freeze easies, as if hits will momentarily freeze in place before moving. Not much to say, as it feels like a step down from Mushroom Bridge, but I still like it, and I do wish it can come back in a future Mario Kart game. The cool part of this track is the layout for being of Yoshi, and there is a shortcut that in later versions of the track they remove it, but other than that I have not much to say. The layout of this track starts you with driving all the way up and shooting off from a cannon to the top of a mountain, and you must climb down the mountain while avoiding rocks, sharp turns, bottomless pits, and a windy bridge. And that is very easy to fall off, but I really do like this track. The longest track in the game, this is 2 laps instead of 3, but I really like how fun it is to play, and I do hope it appears again in a future game. In my opinion, this is the hardest track in the game due to how easy it is to fall over from the bridges, and the geysers can screw you over if you're not looking, but again, I really like this track. This has to be one of my favorite Bowser Castles so far, as it has obstacles to dodge and some good set pieces. On top of that, the ominous soundtrack, not as unnerving as 64, it still gives me a bit of goosebumps to listen to. This track is great as it has some windy roads, then spiral road upwards, then entering a pipe that takes you upwards, and finally driving down the spiral road to finish the finish line, and I think it's my favorite Rainbow Road so far. And that's all the tracks I have to say, and overall I think this is a great selection. I've got one thing to say before we move on, as I think this is the most interconnected game in the series. From seeing Daisy Cruiser from Peach Beach to seeing Mushroom City from Mushroom Bridge and Rainbow Road has the most connected tracks, and it's something I greatly appreciate from this game. Now it's time to talk about anything extra. When you win, you'll get this cutscene showing your place and get a trophy, but no rank this time. However, if you get gold in a cup in any engine level, you'll get an unlockable gift, as this will be a staple in the series. This range from karts to extra courses in battle mode, and most importantly, extra characters. Getting gold in Special Cup 100cc will give you Toad and Toadette, a newcomer to the series, making her debut in the Mario game starting here, and their kart, the Toad Kart. Both of them are lightweights, and their special item is the Golden Mushroom, which is the same one as in 64. The last 2 characters after beating the Star Cup in Mirror Mode are Petey Piranha from Super Mario Sunshine, Kimbu from Luigi's Mansion, along with their vehicle, the Piranha Plimes. Both of them are heavyweights, and their special item is to have everyone special, making them kinda game breaking, but I do like it as it's fitting considering they are unlocked very late in the game. It's now totaling up to 20 characters in this game. And the last thing to unlock is the All Tour Cup. This cup lets you go through every course in the game in one sitting. It starts from Luigi Circuit to Rainbow Road as the last course, and everything in between is random. I really like this, and it's a shame that it only appears in this game only. Then again, it would be a test of endurance considering that later games double the track count if not more, so it is probably better that it's here. As per usual, in single player, Grand Prix lets you race in 4 difficulties, and where you can get gold in every cup in every difficulty, and there are time trials where you can get the fastest time in each race, and that's about it. In multiplayer, you can do Grand Prix for only 2 people in versus mode, which you can race in any track and you can change the number of laps, and if you want frantic, basic, or no items to be set, although this option is scrolled away in the options menu in the title screen, so get to give you the heads up. And finally, there's battle mode, and this time with 3 modes to choose from. Balloon battle is the same as usual. Pop each other's balloon to be the last man standing. Shine Thief is king of the hill. Hold onto the shine sprite until the counter hits 0 and you'll win. And finally, there's Bomb Blast, where you collect and throw bombs at each other. First person to get the required amount of stars wins. These game modes are a lot of fun, and this is when the battle mode peaks here as well. There is one more multiplayer function that I purposely left out from the controls, and that is co-op play. This is the only Mario Kart game that lets you team up with another player, and how it works is after selecting the amount of players, you can choose between separate or co-op. You can race or play battle mode together. One player is the one driving, the other handles items. Controls for the drivers don't change except that they can pass an item if they are holding one, but the player on the back uses items by pressing any face button, and they have to flick the stick back and forth for the driver to have blue sparks when drifting. But the cool thing is that the player on the back can steal each other's racer's items by pressing L and R to slide with them. If you want to switch positions, then you must press both the Z button at the same time. And finally, there's a technique only in co-op, is that at the start of a race, if you both get a rocket boost at the same time, you'll perform a double dash. That is much faster than a regular rocket boost. I think having this one is quite fun and to work together, and you can play with someone who isn't experienced as to join in the fun. I've talked about everything this game has, but I feel like there's something else I forgot to mention. Alright, LAN play. So get this. Remember when I said that the GameCube didn't have internet play? Well, that was kind of a lie, because there's an accessory called the GameCube broadband adapter that let you hook up at the bottom of the system and connect it with a LAN cable either through the router or another GameCube, and you can finally play games online. This didn't take off as only 8 games, 6 in North America, were compatible with the broadband adapter, and the people at Nintendo didn't think having to pay a subscription was a good idea. Oh, how the times have changed. I don't own one myself, seeing as these devices cost about $130 for one. On top of that, you need another copy of the game with another GameCube and broadband adapter to work. And I don't know 7 to 15 more people IRL that wants to play Double Dash, and there's not that many games I can use it for, so no thanks. But I can tell you what it does. You hook up the LAN cable to the other GameCubes, and there should be a LAN mode option in there, and it will take you to a new menu where you can start playing. There are 2 modes that you can play on it, Versus and Battle mode. In Versus, the game shuffles characters and carts every race, but you can't play as Petey Piranha or Kimbu along with their carts and the parade cart. The Battle mode is the same, but no Bomb Blast. The number of players depends on the number of GameCubes and controls as you connect. 2 GameCubes for 4-player racing or 4 co-op racing, or 4 GameCubes as you can get up to 16-player racing or 8 co-op racing. And if you really want to take it to the next level, you can connect up to 8 GameCubes and have every 2 players their own screen for individual or co-op racing. It's amazing that you can play with that many players at the same time. However, you do need a lot of GameCube's copies of the game, several controllers, and more broadband adapters to play this mode. So unless you have the money and friends for this, I'd say don't bother. Fortunately, the GameCube emulator Dolphin lets you emulate the broadband adapter, so you don't need to get the accessory, and you can play online with friends, making it the best way to play this mode that would require so much setup and money to play, so I say go for it. I knew that this game was big, but I didn't think it would take up to 7 pages worth of scripting. But I don't care how long it would take to write, as I want to say everything this game has to offer and my thoughts, as in I do believe this is the beginning of the peak of Mario Kart. From its presentation, from holding up all this time, to the gameplay being so great and replayable, to the amount of content in the multiplayer side of things. If there's one thing that I can say I didn't like, is the small pool of tracks. Don't get me wrong, the tracks we already have are great and still a lot of fun, but I just want to play more, and it would be real nice considering this is my second favorite Mario Kart game. Now, when I say this is my second favorite Mario game, I do mean it, as a future Mario Kart game takes that spot. Spoilers, it's not the next game in the series. But that'll be it for now. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.